Okay, so I just want to make sure everyone is hearing me well. Hi everyone, this is Farida Thaqib again. Welcome to the second episode of our latest web series Beyond Year 3, held in partnership with the Jack Ma Foundation Africa Netpreneur Prize, which we'll talk about more later during the session. Beyond Year 3 web series aim to equip founders in the third year of their entrepreneurial journey and beyond to navigate the ongoing COVID-19 crisis effectively and to continue to grow their impactful businesses successfully and effectively. Today, we have a very interesting topic to discuss, which revolves around building your startup team. Successful companies are never a one-man or woman show. To thrive sustainably as a startup, you need to learn how to hire the best people, help them develop into leaders, and keep them excited to work for you and your organization. In this webinar, we'll discuss what is organizational culture, how to attract and retain the best talents for your organization, and how to use your leadership skills to project confidence and security to your team during crisis. In this session, we have a very special guest, Belal elMegharbel, CEO and co-founder of Maxab, which is an e-commerce platform that connects brands to grocery and retailers and food retailers in Egypt. He has extensive experience in leading teams and leading businesses. He worked as the GM for the famous ride-hailing company Careem, where he led the launch of Careem's new services in Egypt. Hi, Belal.
Hi, Farida. ازيك? How are you?
All good. I'm really excited to know and to hear from you today. We'd love to have this session as interactive as possible. So everyone who's watching us on Zoom or on Facebook, you can leave your questions and comments in the comment section. I'll leave you for 30 minutes and I'll be back to discuss the questions and answers. Belal, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. How do you want me to start?
Just introduce yourself and go ahead. The
Sure.
floor. Yeah.
So, hello everyone. Thank you guys for joining. I really think that the Jack Ma Foundation and the African Entrepreneur Prize is a great way for the continent in general to start thinking bigger and start gaining traction when it comes to startups. It's one of the ways I think the continent can leapfrog and catch up with the developed world very quickly. So I think it's a great initiative, and I'm very happy to be of any help and to participate in any capacity in trying to support the organization. So a little bit about myself. My name is Belal elMegharbel. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Maxab. If you guys haven't heard about us, we're a B2B e-commerce platform that connects the small mom and pop shops directly to food suppliers, and we do manage the entire supply chain for them as well. Before that, I used to run Careem here in Cairo, Egypt. Joined Careem before it was a unicorn. Walked step by step with an organization that I really respect and love and see, and saw how it evolved from a small team to pretty much a global team of around 2,500 people across the MENA region and Pakistan. And I'm very, very thankful for this experience. And that's pretty much who I am. To get into the discussion of this topic, we're here today to talk a little bit about culture and the importance of culture in building any organization. First of all, guys, do not undermine culture whatsoever. Yes, it's something soft, but it's extremely, extremely important to the productivity of the organization at large. So an organization with a healthy culture can produce much more with the exact same amount of people, with the exact same people, if put in the right culture and mindset of execution. So that's the importance of culture. And the second thing we'll be talking about is talent and attracting the best talent. Because I think the talent and the people you have are the ones that specifically the very first 100 people, I would say, in the organizations are the ones that set the culture of your company to start with. So talking a little bit about culture, culture is not the mission and vision and all these fancy words you find written on the wall in your organization. It's actually how people act and think and take decisions. This is what your culture is. So again, it's not what you will coin in terms of phrases and sentences, but it's what somebody that walks into your office will feel. And again, it's what goes through people's mind when they're taking decisions, right? Is what I'm doing fitting, let's say, the Maxab culture, right? And what is the Maxab culture, for example, to start with? This is actually what culture is in the organization, again, because a lot of people think when they put clear mission and vision statements on the wall, that's how they're setting their culture. No, culture actually is set by the people at the very top. It starts at the very top. If you are running a company and you're extremely focused on execution, then this will transcend down to your teams, and it will become a big part of the company culture. If you have an open door policy where everybody can speak their minds without anybody on another side getting defensive, that's your culture as well. So that's pretty much how I think what culture is. So how do we go about building cultures in the organizations? It's pretty much simple. Start by yourself, right? What do you want your organization culture to look like? What do you think? What do you respect in this life? How do you go about doing your day-to-day business? These are the things that goes through my mind while I'm thinking about the company culture. And then I start thinking about, is this actually happening on ground? Are people acting the way I would love them to act? Is pretty much how do you measure that if your culture is behaving the way and the manner you want it to be. So I don't want to get very deep into the culture element, even though it's I think again it's extremely important, and it can be one of the main drivers for your productivity in your organization. But it takes so much time to build, and I don't think a webinar of 30 minutes or so would be able to cover a big part of how culture building happens. But what I really want to talk about today is talent. How do you attract the best talent? How do you keep them engaged? Specifically in the time of crisis. I know that that's a broken record. We've been hearing so much about how do you manage, how do you scale, how do you do whatsoever, how do you live, how do you survive in the times of COVID-19 and Corona. So I will talk about it a little bit more generic, disregarding the current situation, while just giving it a little bit of a touch in terms of what does it mean now, and how culture and having the right people helps you to operate in extreme time of crisis like the ones we have now. So basically, how do you attract the best talent? The question is, first of all, very simple. The best talent love to solve big problems, right? So make sure you're working in a very tough problem that needs actually the best talent to come on board and fix it. So if you're doing more of the same of any other what any other company is doing, I don't think that that's a good driver for you to attract the best talent out there. The second thing is do whatever it takes to get them on board, and always have the A type of kind of caliber. Because if you hire the Bs will only hire Bs and Cs and Ds, and you will get stuck in that loop that is very hard to break later on. So I won't stress on the importance of hiring fast and firing fast enough. It's extremely critical, because if you keep the bad apples in your organization, they mess the good apples as well. So a very simple strategy is the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus as quickly as possible. And who are the right people? Who are the people that you want on board on that bus with you in this very painful, long journey? Right? These are the people that pretty much, for me, are the people that are extremely bright minds that wants to solve big problems. That see the values and are aligned with me on how we want to take this company forward and the big problem we are solving. Again, a big problem is what gets everybody excited to start with, and that's what top talent I've seen love and respect more than anything. The second part is pretty much treating them as equals, because they are your partners in this, regardless of the titles. Everybody in the organization, your top talent, your management team, are your partners in building this. So you have to listen to them exactly as equal, and that's very helpful for them and for you as somebody that are trying to manage an organization and build an organization that is still small, and you want to grow it from a team to a tribe to a village to a continent eventually. You have to treat the top talent as equals. You have to listen to what they say extremely carefully. Everything they say you have to keep them involved in the decision making, because it is their job as well, right? So you cannot do everything on your own. You have to involve these calibers that other than that, it becomes pointless to have them if you aren't going to listen to them, right? So that's a little bit on attracting the best talent. Now, how do you retain the best talent you attract? Is by keeping them engaged, making sure you're solving one hard problem after the other. So pretty much you have to keep them engaged, and you have to keep thinking forward, a little bit forward, so that they can come on board and join you on your train of thought in building the company you are trying to build. Now, in the time of this crisis, leadership is extremely important. A lot of people in this situation suffer from, whether we like it or not. They're emotionally, everybody is extremely stretched to their limits, and people tend. So a problem that big in the time of Corona now will sound like it's that big, just because everybody is already very. I'm sorry, I'm reading one of your questions. Okay, sure. Could you walk us through Maxab? Should I answer the questions now, or should it be at the end of the webinar?
We can do it at the end of the webinar.
Okay, sure. So yes, so I was talking about leadership in the times of Corona, and I was just saying that a problem that is that small will feel like it's that big, just because everybody is not close to each other. Nobody can picture what's going through. They cannot read your reactions, so they actually don't know if that's a big problem or a small problem. So I would say communication is key. in general, and specifically in the time of Corona, the magnitude of it just got multiplied by 4x. That's how important communication is in these times. People are stressed out, people are uncertain because these are uncertain times, and your job is to pretty much breach this gap and figure out ways to bring the people together. Talk to your people about how they're feeling, their emotions, how stressed they are in this times, and then you need to project confidence, right? Even if you are not very certain about what the future entails. We're hearing about so many layoffs. A lot of people are getting salary reductions and all these things. These things are okay, and they will happen, and they used to happen before Corona, and they will continue to happen. But what's important in these kinds of situations, again, is to stay super clear in communication and to understand the emotional needs of your team. It's not my type of person at all that is very keen about, to be frank and honest, about people's emotions when it comes to work. But lately I've figured out that it's actually super important for a manager or a leader to start and understand why are people behaving this way, what kinds of emotional situation are they in now? Are they stressed? Are they not stressed? Are they certain? And are they not certain? And out of my calls with my colleagues over the past month, I figured out that everybody, including myself, is extremely worried from the situation at large. It doesn't have nothing to do with the job itself, but it's about the family you have that you're fearing about, right? It's about your colleagues that you respect a lot and you like a lot, and fearing for their safety. It's about our warehouse workers and what does this means for their lives, for their paychecks. What if we have to take hard measures, right? All these things are extremely critical, and you should address them and work on them, specifically in these very crucial times. What else should we be talking about today's? So I can get back a little bit to my favorite topic again, and the best talent and building the best teams. I would want to add to what I've just said, that everybody that will come into your organization, they have done their own experiences before. They came with their own culture, and people tend to do whatever they think is right. If everything is not in a single place, if you do not communicate what's important for your culture, and what does your organization respect about people, and what does it want the people, how does it want your people to function, is extremely important. So as much as I've mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation that the culture is not the mission and vision that you write on the wall. Thus, on another note, no, it is what people think when they walk into your office, and what people think when they're taking action. But that doesn't negate the idea of writing these things on the wall, right? And making you just have to practice what you preach. You just have to do them, right? There's no point of having them on the wall if you're actually, these are not the 4 things, for example, that comes to people's mind whenever they need to take a hard decision, or whenever they need to make a critical hire in the organization. So having these things written somewhere so that people can refer to is something also that is extremely important as well. So excuse me if I'm a little bit tired. You guys can imagine the fasting, and we're actually operating 24/7, and we're selling people's food at the end of the day, so we cannot. We have to keep operational. So it's been a couple of super stressful weeks. But let me start and take some of your questions as well, so we get this to be more interactive and I don't fall asleep in the middle of it.
I feel you, Belal. Thank you so much for your insights. We have a couple of questions. Someone is asking, could you walk us through Maxab's culture in a bit of detail? And are you hired now? And what type of talent are you targeting? So actually, he's asking 3 questions in a one, but let's start by answering what's Maxab's culture.
Okay, so let me actually answer them in reverse order. So I'll answer the last part of the question first. What type of talent are we targeting? It's quite simple. It is go-getters that go and get stuff done, right? The people that don't wait for you to tell them what to do. Our culture and our strategy here actually is to empower the people that are closer to the problem. The people that are closer to the problem are the best people to solve this problem for you, right? And the strategy is to empower these guys and create this loop or feedback cycle that allows me personally to learn from them and try and give them as much guidance as I can. So to the point of talent, this is the go-getters that really don't need somebody to tell them what to do. Specifically in a startup kind of an environment, nobody knows the right answer. You're building something that is completely new. So you kind of have to empower these guys that are closer to the problems. And these guys have to be go-getters. They should not wait for you again to tell them what to do. They have to be extremely fast, extremely execution driven. At the very start of any startup, execution is key across. But imagine when you have limited amount of cash and limited human resources, you really cannot afford to start dreaming. Right, you have to stay very focused on the problems you have and execute on them. So executors is what we want, and this is the kind of caliber we target. Are we hiring now? Thankfully, we're one of the very few companies that are hiring now, since we're selling again people's food at the end of the day, so we cannot afford to slow down our operations, and we're proud of it. We don't mind it. It's what keeps us coming to the office every day, or going to the warehouses and the operations every day to make sure that we're delivering what people need in these times. What is the Maxab culture in a little bit of details? Basically, I don't want to keep repeating it, but Maxab culture is a culture of execution. It's a culture of getting stuff done. It's a super open, we have an open door policy. You can walk into any meeting, listen to what your colleagues are saying, and pitch in ideas if you really need to. We actually have these open Saturdays. We used to have them when things were a little bit smaller, when we used to bring talent and people from other startups and companies and engage them in discussions as well. So it's a culture that's trying to learn from what people have done. There's a lot of things that people have done, and a lot of people have done it better than what we have. What we can think of. So we try not to reinvent the wheel, right? We try and get whatever is working and build on top of it. So that's how I think we've been hacking growth so far, is where we start from where everybody else ended. We really don't try and reinvent the wheel. We get creative by improvising on what people have ended at, not by restructuring complete solutions. I don't think it's the right approach, specifically for startups that are still quite small.
Also, this is what actually differentiates startups from corporates is having an open culture that everyone can pitch in their ideas and speak up and so on. So it's very important for startups to have this culture going on. We have another question. Do you have an internal decision-making matrices to guide your culture of execution rather than leaving it as a free for all?
Do you have an internal decision-making matrices? Yes. So the idea, actually, our theory is very simple. First of all, you cannot optimize what you cannot measure, right? So we set a way of measuring whatever decision we're going to take, and then we take it and figure out, did it work or it did not work. We actually encourage experimentation and failure big time. You do not learn except if you fail, and fail quickly. If you're failing quickly, you're learning quickly as well. And putting the right mesh in place where you can actually measure the impact of what you're testing. So theoretically, just test one thing at a time. Don't test 100 things at the same time, because you actually wouldn't figure out which one of them worked and which one of them did not work, right? So that's how I think.
Interesting. So we have another question from Khaled. He's telling you, I want to have the skill to really know if the candidate has the right high talent and if he or she fits the culture I'm trying to build. How can I achieve and grow such skill when hiring?
So Khaled, you're trying to figure out again what kind of talent really fits the culture I'm trying to build and how to achieve and grow such skills within hiring. Well, that's a good one and a very, very, very tough one, because a lot of people actually tend to talk much better than they can actually execute. And figuring this out is not an easy job. It's not an easy job. And one of the ways people tend to hire in the organization, as cliche as it is, but it actually is extremely important, is hiring through referrals. So I trust the judgment of the people I trust, right? So if I trust Farida and she tells me this guy is actually good, which means he executes quite well, then this is one of the very good ways into hacking your way through hiring as well. The other thing is, I don't know if it's natural to me, but it can actually get quite easy in figuring out who's bullshitting you in an interview and who really actually knows their stuff. So if you're hearing a lot of buzzwords and article titles in terms of in your conversation with a potential candidate, that's definitely a very, very big very big sign that that this is all theory. Ask a little bit about things that have that you've actually done, things that they've executed on, and then from your answer you have to figure out and you have to be knowledgeable as well before asking these questions with different cultures, different businesses that these guys are coming from, so that you can actually relate to their point. Grow.
Okay, we have questions coming from Facebook. Someone is asking you, Ahmed Al-Shafai is asking you, can you hire someone who is super qualified, although you don't have a clear position for them?
You can do that at the beginning, but not as the company grow. As at the beginning, you need all the help you can get and you can put your hands on. But as you grow and you have an organization in place and you have people's KPIs already in place, and you don't want to actually create redundancy, because I'm assuming that the people you've hired are already good, right? So even if there's somebody else that is good, and there will be some conflict here or some redundancy here, you're wasting a good resource. So a good way that we have started implementing lately, and now it's after a year and a half, is actually having the KPIs for anybody that's joining the team predefined before he actually joins, right? If you do not do that at a later stage, it will become problematic, because people that are good actually tends to want to do something, and if you really don't have something for them to do, they will leave anyways. So actually try and figure out and set their KPIs before they actually join the organization.
Okay, we have another one coming from Facebook. If you were to choose one value for your organization that you believe is the most important, what will it be?
One value?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a super tough one, but I think one of our core values is being genuine to our customers, and this implies a lot, right? So if you are to be, so this summarize a lot of the other elements. If you are really genuine with the customer, you will deliver on time. So operations have a part on it. If we actually don't deliver on time, there's our customer success team will make sure that they resolve the issue really quickly. It also means we will be pricing our products right. So this being genuine towards our customers is, I think, one of the values that I would really care about.
Okay, relating to this question, we have another one coming from Yusri El-Tahir. He's asking you, what are the other core values for Maxab, and how did you identify them?
So pretty much, again, I don't get the part of how do we identify the core values. Oh, now I actually get it. So the values you cannot set from day one and again write them on the wall. To identify your own values, you have to let the operations flow and let the people work, and then sit back and try and identify, is this the right thing that I want to do? What kind of values does this mean? And can I come up with a clear value or a statement that I would come back and communicate to the team and tell them that's the value that these are the values that we care about. So again, being genuine is one of Maxab core values. Being results driven, extreme and extensively only results driven, is one of our other core values.
Okay, we have another one coming from Zoom. Should one be worried about employee performance during these times?
So if you've hired the right people, you shouldn't be worried, honestly. But to be more frank and realistic, yes, you should be worried, not because people are slacking, but again because of the emotional difficulties that in this city, the current situation, the current times have put on all of us. And that's what you really should care about and address with your colleagues at the company.
Okay. Okay, so we have a very tough question from Mahmoud Al-Jinzi. He's asking you how to fire an employee and keep the high spirit in the team.
So first of all, let's talk about the pre-firing decision, right? Why are you firing somebody in the first place? You're firing somebody. There's so many reasons of firing people, right? You either really no longer need this role in general, or people are under. I'm guessing Gendy is asking about the underperformers and the organizations. That's the other reason somebody would mainly get fired. And how would we fire him? Is pretty much First of all, you have to give him all his chances, and you have to, again, that backs to the previous question, have set KPIs before hiring them. And numbers don't lie, right? If the numbers are not coming, this have a direct impact on the organization and on the colleagues, right? So, and if everybody is agreeing that this is the right matrices and somebody is not delivering on them, then their spirits will definitely not be affected with such a decision, right? On another note, what ends up happening in organizations that don't fire quite fast is that you end up with 10% or 5%, 5 people in your entire organization doing 80% of the job, right? So you're actually hurting the rest of the team by keeping the bad apples in the house, right? So yeah, so that's how we go about our firing decisions here at the company.
Okay, we have another one focusing on company's values. So the question stays, do you believe that a company's values change over time?
I actually think so. Everything changes over time, right? Nothing is permanent. Values would change depending. I wouldn't say not depending on the situation, depending on the size of the company and what can you actually transcend to the entire teams, right? So I think they will change because times change and everything changes over time. A lot of people will disagree with me here, but I think there's no shame about it that you change your values.
Belal, I think we've lost you for 10 seconds. If you can repeat your answer.
Yes, I was just saying that pretty much there is no shame in changing your values. It's actually a shame if you figure out that something is not right and you keep it in place, right? Because when you start out, something might seem like it's the right thing and that's the right value to have. And then down the line, they're not, right? So a lot of people will disagree on me with this, but I think values would change over time. And the problem is if you figured out that you've had this as a value for the company and hasn't been working out well, just keeping it has no point, just counterproductive.
Right. Okay. So we have a question from Tiga asking, what are the tips for managing a large team remotely as a business leader?
Yeah, so that's pretty much quite a challenge, I would say, for everybody right now. But it's quite simple. Just have very frequent touch points and have very clear KPIs. By having, you guys don't imagine how having clear KPIs minimize the amount of calls, minimize the amount of effort and follow up you would need to do. Because it's just one number you look at the end of every week and you would know everybody's performance, right? The other thing is have a couple of checkpoints periodically. And one of the other things that I found very useful these times, don't only talk about work, right? People, like we say in Arabic, فيهم اللي مكفيهم.
Yeah.
So they're already stressed and full of uncertainties again. So try and build this genuine and build it in a genuine manner with your colleagues at the company.
Okay, so Tiga has another question. Is it important to still maintain a marketing team during these times, especially when sales are down?
Well, that's a question for the wrong person. I really don't believe in marketing to start with. So I think specifically in my field, we're in the B2B sector, right? So marketing, and I would say since this competition is about Africa, everybody's here is from the African continent. I think in our content, marketing is extremely overhyped and underperforming. Just because the cost of it doesn't make a lot of sense, given that the average GDP per capita in countries like ours is below $2,000 a year, right? So how do you justify a customer spending a lot on marketing in these days if that's the majority of your customers, right, have a GDP per capita of below $2,000, just doesn't make sense, right? It makes sense only if your cost of acquisition and the lifetime value is more than whatever you're spending. But in these days, I would stay focused on keeping afloat and staying alive, right? A lot of companies, unfortunately, will start going down like flies this coming period, because a lot of the past 4 years have been insane, honestly. There was a huge hype in tech at large, in valuations. Funding was much easier. So a lot of people were running after the wrong numbers. And now this is the moment. Now is the time. This is the moment of truth where real businesses will show up, and you will figure out that they are real businesses, and businesses that were built mainly on KPIs to solve for investors' appetite will also show very clearly.
Okay, we have one last question coming from Sharif Wagih. He's asking you, how do you see the transformation of Maxab from a small startup to a corporate that is having different shape now?
That's a good one. This change is inevitable. The ultimate goal of a startup is to grow the company at the end of the day, right? So what does that mean? Corporates are not usually bad, right? It's what we know about them now. When they become very big, right, and decision making becomes slower, are the bad elements of being a corporate. So if you can keep your organization nimble, if decision making still happens quite quickly, then I would love to see my organization grow, right? So that there is nothing wrong about it. We as and my colleagues at Maxab, we just have to make sure we're evolving, right? So I know for a fact that I'm not the best CEO out there, right? But I'm trying, and I have to keep trying to grow my abilities and my skills to better fit the size and the time the organization is at now. So when you're running a small startup, definitely requires completely different set of skills than managing a big corporate. We didn't even used to do one-on-ones because we were like 5 people in a room, right? What kind of one-on-ones would you do, right? But these things, for example, become important, and people start appreciating more as the organization grows, right? So yeah, that's it on that question.
Okay, we have 2 more people asking for advice. So we have one from Facebook and one from Zoom before we close the webinar. We have one from Khalid. He's saying at the very beginning, we may not have enough fund to hire as many as we may need. What are your suggestions regarding this?
Do whatever it takes to get the best people on board. There is no compromises there, right? To give them sweat equity, and they definitely deserve it. Sell them the job, right? If you're solving a big problem, Khalid, people will want to be a part of this. They would want to leave an impact. These guys are extremely impact driven, right? They want to see their impact. So put a lot of effort in it, and be fair, be generous in sweat equity, and sell them the job, right? They will come.
Okay, the other one is coming from Ahmed El-Hawari. He's asking for a startup working in the field of online recruitment. How do you advise to start getting their first client?
Well, I think that startup is about the right time, right? A lot of people are looking for jobs now. So usually your first customers won't come from your online platform, right? They will come mainly offline. Just pick up the phone and call whoever is registered, call everybody you know in a company, and see who's hiring and how can you make that a good fit for them, right? There's no shame about hacking your way offline till you get there, but just put the effort in getting it there, even if it's 100% offline.
Okay, thank you so much, Belal, for your insights. That was really useful. And do you have any closing notes for the attendees?
So I just would summarize very quickly. Culture is extremely important. It's not what's written on the wall. It's what you guys, what somebody would walk into the office feels. It is what goes through your mind when you're taking decisions. So make sure you have that right. The right people on the bus, wrong people off the bus very quickly is the other major thing about hiring. Wait for as long as it takes to get your A talent, because the B's will hire B's and C's and D's, and that's what you don't want. So stay for as long as you can till you find these A calibers that you really need. And yeah, these are tough times. Stay strong, guys. Hustle. It's time for the continent to start hustling. So I wish you guys all the luck in this coming competition. Hopefully you guys all make it somehow.
Thank you so much, Belal. And for everyone who doesn't know about African Entrepreneur Prize, it's a pitch competition for all African entrepreneurs all across Africa for a chance to win a share of $1.5 million and to pitch to Jack Ma himself. I'll leave you with a very short video to know how to apply. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
We see you, African entrepreneur, and now the world needs to see you too. Are you ready to be a 2020 ANPI Africa's Business Hero? Are you an African entrepreneur? Is your business at least 3 years old? Are you ready to pitch your business to legends and tell your story? If you said yes to all these questions, it's your turn to apply now. Follow these 5 quick, easy steps to start your journey to becoming an ANPI Business Hero. Step 1, set up an account. Fill in your details. Click register and you are 1 step in. Step 2, read the guidelines carefully. Just visit africabusinessheroes.org and click on application guide. Step 3, the criteria for eligibility. Simple. Each applicant should be a founder or co-founder of the company. The applicant has African citizenship or is a direct descendant of an African citizen. Your company has to be registered, headquartered, and operated in an African country. Your company should be at its post-idea stage. Your business should be 3 years old or more and has at least 3 years of revenue history. Step 4, get a reference. It could be your mentor, colleague, teacher, or advisor. And finally, step 5, submit your application. Your application includes these 5 sections: founder profile, business profile, business deep dive, awards and recognition, and a video introduction. If you get stuck at any point, don't worry. Visit our application guide and frequently asked questions for help, or send an email to info@africabusinessheroes.org. Now, it's your turn to become a 2020 ANPI Business Hero and win a share of $1.5 million, admission into the Alibaba eFounders Fellowship, access to mentorship and training, and a chance to tell your story to Africa and the world. Apply now.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. See you next week in the next webinar. Have a good day.